Picture a rat mid-scurry, 10 feet from your back door. It stops, backs up, changes direction entirely. No trap sprung, no poison, nothing chased it off. It just hit an invisible wall made of scent, and its brain told it, very clearly, not here. That wall is something you can grow. Long before pest control came in a spray bottle, people figured out which plants made a property feel unwelcoming to the things they didn't want moving in. Some of that old-school knowledge has aged into something you can actually test in a lab. Some of it hasn't, and I'd rather tell you that up front than let you find out the hard way. Here's the honest breakdown. Rodents run their entire lives through their nose. It's how they map food, danger, and safe routes home, which means the right plant oils don't just annoy them, they scramble the instructions they're relying on to survive. That part is well documented. Snakes are a murkier case. The evidence there is mostly generations of homeowners noticing the same pattern over and over. Snakes tend to avoid sharp, dense, heavily scented ground cover, probably because it's uncomfortable to move through and hard to read for danger. Treat it as a strong pattern, not a guarantee. None of what's coming is a force field. Think of it more like changing the zoning laws on your property without filing a single form. Plant the right things in the right spots, and you've quietly rezoned the perimeter of your house from worth checking out to not worth the trouble. I've got 7 plants for you today, and here's the part I like best. Almost none of them are one-trick specialists. Most are doing pest control as a side hustle while their main job is looking good, smelling incredible, or ending up in your dinner. One thing before we start. If you've got a cat or a dog who treats the yard as their personal buffet, a couple of these plants need to stay on perimeter duty only, nowhere near where they dig, nap, or graze. I'll call those out by name so you're not guessing later. Stay through to the 4th plant. It's the one rodents seem to hate more violently than anything else here, and the final one on the list is almost a pun on legs. If any of this saves you a call to an exterminator down the road, a like on this video costs you nothing and helps the channel a lot. Let's get into it. 1. Lavender. Start with the plant doing the most convincing double life. Gorgeous to look at, brutal to a rodent's nervous system. What reads to us as a calming, expensive-smelling perfume reads to a rat as static, loud, disorienting static, laid directly over the smell-based GPS it depends on for everything. Rather than push through a thick planting of it, most rodents will simply reroute. Snakes, for their part, tend to treat a dense, aromatic hedge the same way you'd treat a hallway that smells faintly of ammonia. Technically passable, but why bother? It's an easy plant to keep alive, which helps. Full sun, soil that drains fast, and once it's rooted in, lavender basically stops needing you. It handles drought better than most plants you'll ever grow on purpose. Its only real weakness is wet feet, so keep it off anywhere water tends to pool after rain. The highest value real estate for it is right along a front walkway, against a sun-baked foundation, or framing a doorway, anywhere you want that scent curtain working at full strength. Want it for free? Buy exactly 1 small lavender plant. Snip a handful of stems that haven't flowered yet, pull the lower leaves off, and root them in water or straight into soil. Give it 2 seasons, and that single plant has quietly cloned itself into a hedge. Dry some of the flower heads afterward, and you've got sachets for your dresser drawers, the same plant working shifts both outside and in. On the pet safety side, lavender is only mildly irritating if an animal eats a large quantity of it, and as a border planting, the real-world risk is close to nothing. Net result, your senses get a spa upgrade, and the local rat population quietly relocates its address.
2. Rosemary. If lavender is a scent curtain, rosemary is closer to a decoy operation. It's dense, resinous, and loaded with oils sharp enough that rodents want no part of it. That's job 1. Job 2 is sneakier. Rosemary's smell is strong enough to help bury the food odors leaking out of your kitchen vents, your trash cans, or a pet bowl left out overnight, which are exactly the scents that pull a hungry rat toward your house from 3 yards over. And because it stays green all winter, it's not seasonal security, it's a permanent guard post. It asks for very little. Full sun, soil that isn't waterlogged, and after that, it more or less runs on autopilot, tolerating dry spells with barely a complaint. Put it near entryways, next to vents, or right up against any crack in your foundation a rodent might try to exploit. And if you trim it regularly, it'll hold a tidy, low head shape while it works. For the frugal route, one small rosemary plant eventually grows into a genuinely large shrub, and it roots easily from cuttings taken off that same plant. Root a batch, and eventually you can line your entire foundation without a second purchase. Oh, and you'll never run out of fresh rosemary for the roast in the oven. This is a plant repelling pests with one hand and seasoning dinner with the other. 3. Lemongrass. This one's smuggling a chemical weapon most people don't realize is built in. Lemongrass produces citronella naturally, the exact compound sold in candles and sprays every summer to keep mosquitoes off your porch. That same sharp citrus punch is widely credited with pushing snakes away from a property line, and as a happy accident, it clears out mosquitoes at the same time. One plant, two unwanted guests handled at once. Give it full sun and warm conditions, and it shoots up fast into tall, dense, grassy clumps. Water it consistently, and it rewards you with a lush stand that looks as good along a fence line as it does framing a patio, which is exactly where you'll want that mosquito-repelling bonus working hardest. To multiply it for free, wait until a clump matures, then dig it up, split the base into sections, and replant those around the yard. You'll never need to buy it again, and you'll have a standing supply for cooking, too. Snakes stay away, mosquitoes stay away, and your next stir-fry gets noticeably better. 4. Mint. Here's the one I promised. The plant rodents seem to genuinely dread rather than simply dislike. Peppermint's menthol punch is considered the single strongest natural rodent deterrent on record. It smells crisp and clean to us. To a rat's scent-driven brain, it's closer to a fire alarm going off right next to its only working sense. Nothing else on this list gets avoided this aggressively. But here's the trap almost everyone falls into. Mint doesn't grow politely. Left loose in open ground, it spreads through underground runners and will colonize an entire garden bed within a season or two, no invitation required. The fix is simple. Never let it touch open soil. Grow it in pots or sink containers into the ground around doorways and property edges, so you get the full deterrent effect with zero risk of a takeover. Beyond that one rule, mint is easy. Some sun, regular water, done. Mint is also the cheapest plant on this entire list to multiply. A single cutting roots in a glass of water within days, and one plant can eventually fill a dozen small pots, enough to guard every door, vent, and gap around the house for the price of one seedling. Quick pet note, mint is generally considered safe for cats and dogs in small amounts, though a large quantity can cause an upset stomach, which is one more reason the pot-only rule is the right call either way. A rat gets one whiff of peppermint at your back door and decides the house down the street looks a lot more promising. Quick pause here. If this is useful, tap that like button. It's the single easiest way to help more people trying to pest-proof their homes without chemicals find this video. Now, the final 3 are the heaviest hitters on the whole list. 5. Marigold. Don't let the cheerful color fool you. Under those bright petals, a marigold is running security. Both the blooms and the root system give off a pungent smell that's been used for generations to push back rodents and snakes. And as a bonus, marigolds also fend off a long list of garden insects and even harmful nematodes hiding underground. That's a plant defending your property both above the soil and below it simultaneously. They're about as easy to grow as anything gets. Full sun, straight from seed, blooming steadily for months without asking much in return. Line them along a border, tuck them next to a fence, or ring an entire vegetable patch with them if that's what you're trying to protect. The money angle here is hard to beat. Marigold seeds are some of the cheapest you'll find, and a couple of dollars worth of seed packet can realistically line an entire yard. They also tend to self-seed, meaning a single planting often keeps returning on its own for years without you lifting a finger. Pet note, marigolds are only mildly irritating if eaten, and the outdoor risk is low. They look like a flower bed. They function like a patrol. 6. Society garlic. This one wins almost entirely on smell alone.
Society garlic, like the garlic in your kitchen, gives off a strong, sulfur-heavy odor that both rats and snakes tend to avoid on instinct. And society garlic in particular is a favorite for this job because it delivers that odor while also throwing up delicate purple flowers, so it reads as decoration while functioning as a defense line. It's been planted along property borders for discouraging snakes for a very long time. Give it full sun and soil that drains well, and it'll reward you with drought tolerance and neat, compact clumps, ideal for ringing a foundation or lining a border without much upkeep. It also divides on its own every year, so a handful of starter plants split each season can eventually ring an entire property for free. Now, an important warning, and please don't skip it. True garlic and onions are toxic to cats and dogs if eaten. Keep this one well away from anywhere a pet digs, grazes, or naps. Planted carefully along the outer edges, though, it sends a clear signal to every rat and snake nearby that there's nothing here worth investigating. 7. Snake plant. And here's the one I saved for last, because no plant on this list has a more fitting name. The snake plant, also called mother-in-law's tongue, has been planted around homes for generations specifically to keep snakes away. And the reasoning is part texture, part structure. Its leaves are tall, stiff, and blade-shaped, forming a dense wall with sharp edges that snakes generally prefer not to push through. And many gardeners believe the upright spear-like silhouette reads as a threat in its own right, whether it's the shape, the texture, or simply the density of the barrier. A plant named after the exact animal it repels is about the closest thing to poetic justice a garden offers. Caring for it borders on comedic ease. In warm climates, it lives outdoors year-round, forming a thick, spiky, low-maintenance line with almost no attention required. It handles everything from full sun to deep shade, needs very little water, and shrugs off neglect better than nearly anything else you could plant. In colder regions, keep it potted near entryways and bring it in before the first frost. The best money-saving move to end on, the snake plant is about as close to a free plant as exists. It spreads underground through rhizomes, so at repotting time you can split one plant into several. Over time, a single snake plant can grow into an entire defensive border, and any extras kept indoors double as one of the most popular air-purifying houseplants around. One last warning, the snake plant is toxic if chewed, so while it's completely safe as an outdoor barrier, keep potted versions out of reach of curious pets. A plant literally named after the creature it keeps away, you couldn't write that if you tried.
So there's the full lineup. 7 plants that rats and snakes would honestly rather avoid, ready to take up post around your home as a natural, chemical-free line of defense. Picture it less like a garden and more like a quiet border patrol. Lavender and rosemary holding the front step, mint standing guard in pots by the back door, marigold circling the vegetable patch, and a cluster of snake plants forming a spiky little watchtower near the porch. Nothing here shouts for attention, nothing here needs batteries. It's working the entire time you're asleep. This isn't a replacement for the fundamentals. You'll still want to seal up gaps and keep the yard tidy, but stacked together, these 7 plants quietly change what your property tells anything slithering or scurrying past. Move along, nothing here. Lower cost than a service contract, better looking than a trap by the door, and it pays you back in herbs and flowers while it works. If this helped, subscribe for more natural ways to protect your home and make it better looking at the same time. Tell me in the comments which one you're planting first, or drop your own rat or snake story if you've got one, and let me know what you want covered next. If you got something out of this, that like button really does help. Thanks for watching, and here's to a yard that keeps the unwanted guests out the old-fashioned way.